Because there's no way to treat a patient for any illness, cancer, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, you name it, without treating what is often an underlying issue that's ignored, and that's depression, anxiety, addiction, and of course serious mental illness as well. The honor of being the author of a bill called the Mental Health Parity and Addiction Equity Act. A bill that says something really revolutionary. It says that the brain is part of the body. That's what that legislation says. Sawyer will attest to this. It took years for us to get any kind of agreement on that in Congress. It was the subject of lots of debate in Congress. But finally, we got bipartisan support because it was recognized that these illnesses don't just affect Democrats, they also affect Republicans too. And there was a realization. Sold his story of being in rehab with me to the National Enquirer for $10,000. And I was a state rep in Providence, Rhode Island, and I had, tried to kind of distance myself from my past, as much as possible. And I kept it all a secret. I would park my car 4 blocks away from my therapist's office because I didn't want anyone to know I was getting mental health treatment. And I was terrified that now I was going to, get thrown out of office. And more significantly, I was terrified that the people who loved me the most would reject me. My time in Congress, I periodically need to go back to inpatient treatment. And the reason I had to is because regular health care didn't treat my illness as a chronic illness the way they do my asthma. My doctor checks on my asthma and my medications all the time, but not with my addiction and mood disorder. And so periodically my illness would get worse and I'd have to go back. I'd always make it a secret. I would go away during my Christmas vacations because I figured everyone would think I was with my family. And I tell the hospital administrators, don't put me down at the edge of the campus where the people with mental illness and addiction are treated. I can't afford to go down there because if they ever find out that I've been down there, it will ruin my political career because I'm supposed to be the sponsor of mental health parity, not a consumer. And the administrator would say, well, Patrick, you're like that hair club for men guy. And not only are you the sponsor, but you're also a client as well. Just shows you I'm trying to lead the effort and I'm also trying to keep it a secret while I'm leading the effort. Just shows you the layers of denial that you have when you have these illnesses. So called on to resign my office, and instead I kind of went around my district to see how my constituents felt. So I would go into one of my senior high-rises and everybody would know that I was just in treatment. And I'd come in there, I'd say, first of all, let me thank you all for those get well cards that you sent me while I was in the hospital. I really appreciate all those get well cards. And of course, all my seniors would look around and they're like, I didn't send him a get well card. You sent him a get well card? No, I didn't send him a get well. But it kind of caught them off guard because it illustrated that with these illnesses, you don't treat them like other illnesses where you reach out to people who are suffering. In my book, A Common Struggle, I say the common struggle is the silence that accompanies these illnesses. It's the shame that people feel at suffering an illness whose symptoms are behavioral and which the society in general doesn't understand because they associate behavior with ability to make decisions. And when your brain is hijacked by addiction or mental illness, your ability to make sound decisions is compromised. Your ability to have insight to your well-being is compromised. It is the single greatest characteristic of all mental illnesses, addictions to all levels of mental illness, that you often don't even know yourself how ill you are. And that's to the frustration of everyone around you who can't believe you don't get it. Provided on a primary, secondary, and tertiary tertiary levels of care for cancer, then they must provide it for depression. If they provide it for diabetes, they must provide it for anxiety. If they provide it for cardiovascular disease, they must provide it for schizophrenia and bipolar disorder at every level of care. And that is the federal law. It's unequivocal.